Thanks. You know, you got into the yes, doctor. Same to you, my dear. Something hot. Yeah, I'm gonna get some hot tea. Get some hot tea. Okay. All right. You got something too?
Yeah, I get that. There's some water.
Right. Was able to send it. Yeah. Less you should.
Yeah, I mean, you know what, I send them to the. I send them to the. Yeah, you see when they join on there.
I have a thing of right now. I don't know if I don't know. I gotta teach. Oh, it's one of them. Yeah, I gotta try that soon. Was about virtual. All them on the. Well, I'm in one piece. Gonna do our opening prayer, blessing and thanksgiving this morning, seeing that this is my final day with such an awesome group. All kinds of things. All energetic and ready to hit the ground running. So. That is great. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to gather for and to develop ourselves. You have ordained that work is beneficial, that is your intention that as a people we will improve things and improve ourselves through life. So we thank you for the opportunity to learn. We thank you for working in a place where they don't just want to extract from you, but they also want to impart wisdom and benefit them that will help to advance your career. So we just thank you for this time that we're gonna spend together, it may become a fellowship, maybe become an enrichment. And may you all take things from this course that will benefit us in the future. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Amen. So, our final day today, basically, will focus on elements of development and training within the records management sphere. I have invited three of my mentors to join us if they can at this time. One, Mr. Steve Weitzman, and he's an information government specialist. We also have Mr. Jesse Wilkins, who's also involved in records management, and he's highly involved with training and development. So he facilitates a lot of courses leading to certifications in various areas. Primarily, the one that he was most instrumental in was the Certified Information Professional exam. So I'm hoping that he can join us this morning and he'll be able to share some information with regard to the start of now how we can tap into that. And there's also Mr. Alfredo Devana, he's involved with document imaging, he's a vendor. Now, I'm hoping, like I say, that they can join us before our time for today, our end time. Oh, okay.
Valentina, if you need to go a little bit, so. Is that okay? If we have to go over a little bit, is that fine? Patients who are not in registry. If we could go, if we have to go over a little bit, is that okay? No. So what's going to go on the thing?
Well, I'll see if they join, because I'd really like for them to give some insights and then probably give you their.
I'll be available. I think.
Oh, okay. Awesome. So Miguel, you're gonna put us on the day 10 slide.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah.
And you're gonna talk about.
Right. Oh, I see that Jesse's already there.
Okay, no problem.
Yeah, so we can get started with it, that's okay. Hello,
Morning.
good morning, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm pretty good, pretty good. Thanks for joining us because this is our final session. The Institute of Financial Services, Bahamas Institute of Financial Services, and they're providing a records management fundamentals training for our Insurance Commission of the Bahamas.
Very
So
cool.
right now, I am going to allow Ms. Campbell to introduce you to the Insurance Commission.
Good morning.
Morning.
How are you?
Very good. Thank you.
Great, great. So as a former Girl Guide, we were taught to always be prepared. No, I am not prepared for this. So welcome, thank you. We've had the pleasure of being trained and enlightened by Mrs. Tucker. And we appreciate that you're able to join us to contribute to it. The Insurance Commission is the regulator for the insurance industry in the Bahamas. We're a statutory body. Of course, we supervise and we regulate practices and market conduct. We ensure that our licensees meet what the legislation requires, our policies, guidelines, practices, all of that. So I mean, enforcement unit. Right, and we are still under the Ministry of Finance, which is a government entity, so we still fall under government, but as a independent statutory body.
Mm,
So today we have the majority of the registry and document management unit. And we also have 2 members from enforcement, and we also have a member from the legal department. And so collectively, we will be responsible in some shape, manner, or form for the management of records, excuse me, as it relates to the various business flow, workflow of the commission.
Sure.
And so I think, yeah, so we are open. Thank you.
Okay, so with that being said, I just mentioned your name. And so Jesse, this morning, we're talking about training and certification in the information management professional. And as one of my mentors, you introduced me to a lot of that a number of years ago when I first came to do the electronic record course while you were at AIM. So this morning, without me really going through some of the notes I had with respect to the training at this time, I just would like for you to share with our team, basically, what's out there with respect to training for persons who would want to think about it as a career or just want to know what other options are available for them with respect to the information management professional. We would appreciate whatever information you can share, particularly with respect to like the CIP certification and any others that you currently have information on. So
Sure. And I actually have a handout that I can share with you after this call that outlines the various certifications in what I think is an easy to read table that lists the costs and the prerequisites and what it costs to maintain it over time and all those sorts of things. So I'd be happy to share that if you think it of value.
yes, thank you. That was good.
Okay. So by way of brief background, I've been doing training and certification in this industry for a little over 20 years. I've actually been doing training a lot longer than that, but I was a military trainer before I got into our information management industry. I've had certifications for most of that time, and I've taught certifications. And so I think it's an interesting time and an exciting time to be looking for professional development in information management because there really are a host of options out there. I suppose I should start by talking about the difference between training and certifications and they're trying to think about how to approach this. Training can lead to a certification, but it doesn't have to. There are a lot of training courses out there that are free or very low cost that don't themselves lead to certifications, but can really help you in the exercise of the work that you have to do, the oversight work that you have to do, and the types of things that you're looking for of the companies that you are overseeing. Okay. So I guess the first place I would probably start is with the professional associations that are out there, and there are a number of them. As Renee mentioned, I worked at AIM, the Association for Intelligent Information Management, for a number of years, and you can find their website at aiim.org. They offer self-paced online training for the most part, and I think it's fairly engaging. It's fairly interesting. They have a lot of handouts and worksheets that you can download and use to fill out and push your learning forward. It does not lead to a certification, but they also have one about which I'll speak momentarily. It's a subscription service. I think the going rate is $49 a month per person. They run specials and deals all the time, but the key benefit to it is it's online and self-paced. So you can take it whenever you want to, right? AIM also offers a certification, the Certified Information Professional that Renee noted, and that covers the entire length and breadth of information management, from dealing with paper to dealing with digital, converting from paper to digital, making them searchable and findable, retaining them for the period of time required by law, statute, and business need, and ultimately getting rid of them at the end of their life cycle when it's appropriate. There is some general legal coverage, and AIM is a US-based organization, but within that framework, you absolutely could put in your own legal frameworks, your own legal aspects as part of that. ARMA, which used to stand for the Association of Records Managers and Administrators, is another group that really focuses on records management and information governance. They also have a certification. They also offer some training, and it's self-paced online. They don't offer as much training, and that's unfortunate, but they do offer a lot of resources, standards, guidelines. For example, I have used with a number of clients their job descriptions for records and information management positions. So if a company is looking to hire a records manager versus a director of information governance versus a records clerk, it lists out in some detail what those levels of performance should look like and what to expect of somebody doing those jobs. Their certification is called the Information Governance Professional, and it is narrower than what AIM offers. It's a little bit more strategic, I would argue. And so if you're looking for the basics, AIM is probably a better fit. If you have the basics and are looking for more strategic planning and setting up a program and developing a charter, ARMA is probably a better fit for that. Outside of North America and the Western Hemisphere, there are a number of other groups that offer training and offer credentialing. The Information and Records Management Society of the UK has a number of offerings and credentials. RIMPA International, which is based in Australia, has their own credentials, and they offer just a vast array of training courses, both instructor-led and self-paced online. All of those are available online. I mean, you don't have to travel to Australia, though I recommend it if you can. But they're very good training, and they cover everything: privacy, information management, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, the managing and governing of artificial intelligence in a business environment, all of those sorts of things. There are a number of private sector actors who offer training as well. Probably the best known currently in the world is a company called Leadership Through Data. And they have offices in the United States, in the UK, and in Australia. And again, they offer a number of instructor-led courses as well as live online. I will include in the handout that I'm going to send to Renee all of the URLs for all of these companies and organizations so that you can find them easily. The one that I think gets overlooked a lot is LinkedIn and LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn purchased a company called lynda.com some years ago and incorporated their training into their offering. And so you have to have a paid subscription to LinkedIn to access these resources, and they are all self-paced online. But there are thousands of courses on anything you would care to learn. In fact, I'm on LinkedIn right now. I'm just going to do a quick search on AI in insurance and just see if it shows anything. No, I don't want to set my career goals. I just cyber insurance for IT professionals, the new age of risk management strategy for business. But there are literally thousands of courses out there. I have taken some of the LinkedIn Learning courses on AI myself, and they're very, very good. And it's all you can eat. Once you pay the subscription fee, you can take as many courses as you want. Many of them have certificates associated with them that you can then, say, hey, I completed this course of learning, and congratulate me, basically. Moment. It's early here and I haven't had any coffee yet, so I apologize.
No, that's fine, you go ahead.
Where is
That's
it?
for once.
Where are you?
I'm in Denver, Colorado.
Oh, yeah.
And it is just about to hit 8
Oh.
a.m.
You need to come to, I think it's 80, is it? 78? Sorry.
Well, I've in my career I've had the great good fortune of teaching classes in Trinidad, I believe in Barbados, several classes for the government of the Cayman Islands.
Oh,
I
nice.
think 5 or 6 classes for them. So yes, I would love to come down.
Talk later. Right.
I suppose one of the differences between training and certification is that you do the learning for learning's sake, right? You learn it to be better at your job, to be able to understand the nuances of what the companies you're overseeing are doing, what you're doing in terms of your own record keeping internally. The certification is maybe a way to demonstrate that to others in a way that is sort of a shorthand, if you will. I can see somebody like Steve, who is a dear colleague and who is also a CIP, and without knowing anything else about Steve, I know that he knows something about information management. Now, I've known Steve for long enough that I know he knows a lot about information management. And I'll turn it over to him.
Thank you so much, Jesse. So welcome to Steve, AKA the Information Governance Guy. So Steve, this is our final session today with the team at the Insurance Commission of the Bahamas. And so we've had just about 2 weeks of intense discussions and reviews with respect to fundamentals in the records management framework. So we would just love to hear some more from you in terms of espousing information governance, just to get that clear understanding of how that all ties in, because we know that's a separate sphere from the foundational records management. So it focuses a lot on our policies, our procedures, our processes, but I will leave that in your expert hands to share with us this morning.
Sure. It is one of my favorite topics. Thank you for having me. Hi, Jesse. You're looking very Santa-like. This may be controversial. I don't know. It won't surprise you, certainly, if it is somewhat. I'm of the belief that there is very little space between the disciplines of records management and those of information governance. In fact, I would go as far as to say those disciplines are the same. The way I look at the world, the biggest difference is that records management, by its very name, focuses on business records, whereas information governance focuses on that and more. I use the term very broadly because I believe it's vital that organizations of all stripes, public, private, regardless of vertical market, really take good care of all of their information, whether or not it's an official record, whether it's on paper or on a screen, regardless of where it lives, regardless of whether it's structured or unstructured. So, we very often deal with the unstructured documents, let's say, records, where there is some structure that can be applied and is applied. Word documents have a foundation in XML, which is a sort of structure, kind of. We can extract and apply metadata, which helps us find things. It's not really structural, but it kind of gets there. But there are databases, actual honest to goodness rows and table databases that I believe also fall under that umbrella. And there is certainly information contained within databases that we need to govern, that certainly need to be handled under the rules of compliance. There's a ton of private information there, so all those privacy diktats apply for sure. There's transactional information, it depends on which database you're talking about, but there's a lot of stuff in there that in many ways gets included in the unstructured documents that we deal with. So dealing with the unstructured documents that contain it is one thing, but we also need to think about applying retention and all that good stuff to the structured data as well in databases. Now, having said all that, I will, excuse me, also confess to using all these terms interchangeably. Because at the end of the day, if I'm talking to a database administrator or an IT person, I don't want to get lost in the weeds of the vocabulary. I want to start doing the work. So if I'm speaking to a group of people, to pick something at random, that are steeped in business records, I might talk about information governance in terms of records management. So there's a little bit of, I almost want to call it marketeering there. It's kind of know your audience. Because again, I'll come back to where I started. The disciplines of records management are the same disciplines that we should be applying to, whatever other kind of management you want to call it. Data management, content management, knowledge management, all the managements. Even process management to a very large degree. Certainly process documentation. So the way the question was posed to me, if I heard it right, was to explore the differences. And I don't fundamentally think.
Basically, we touched on information governance, speaking to the fact that, it primarily, is important when we're looking at building all our programs, and you have to develop your policies, your procedures, your processes. So the insurance commission, they're relatively new with getting their program set up. So I would also, like you or Jesse, you can also give some pointers to them as a organization really in the process of building their program. So right now they what we call in an investigative stage to ensure or to see what they have that they can now take and build our formal program.
Want me to jump in, Jesse, or do you want to? I can set up your playbooks nicely, I think.
Well, I think that starting from an investigatory place and determining what you have and what can be done and what needs to be done is obviously the first step. There are some relatively well-known methodologies for doing that. Renee, you may have your own methodology for doing that. I know Steve does. I adhere fairly closely to ARMA's methodology, but I think all of us as consultants, we look to try and figure out what it is that you're doing, what's the appetite for risk, what's the appetite for change, and then try and take it in a thoughtful, methodical approach. As Steve was alluding to, one of the things that I do in my practice is build something called playbooks, and these are kind of like SOP manuals on steroids, if you will, where they list all of the things that are required of a effective records management program and describe step by step how to do those individual things. For example, here's how, when, and who should update the records retention schedule. Here's how, when, and who should be involved in writing policies or in updating procedures or in actually executing disposition. I will say, though, that I think that playbooks require a certain amount of maturity in the program first, in the sense that it's difficult to write a playbook about your program if you haven't established the program quite yet. But I do think that starting with a look around and an investigation, and then I think the number one thing that you can do after that point, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve, is to probably figure out who's going to run this thing and what they're looking for from the program. And they're going to be the foundation for your steering committee that in turn is going to help guide the process and help to make the decisions in terms of, do you bring in external consultants? Do you need software? Do you need to focus on paper records first or digital records first or both at once? Steve?
I'm just nodding. I'm the bobblehead in Jesse's world here. Yeah, all of that. The inventorying is certainly vital. Well, first, let me take a step back before that, and in some ways congratulate you. I mean, you are all there and you're all grappling with this issue, and that really is the first step. However, it evolves from here, and however long it takes, the fact that there is a group of interested people looking to try to do this right is a huge first step. Because sometimes that's the biggest stumbling block. If somebody with the idea and can't get any traction anywhere else in the organization, and so it just sits there, and the problems accrue, duplicate documents and expired document, all the things that we all know about. So I look at the inventorying actually in three parts. One is certainly the information, records, documents, data, all of those pieces. What is it? Where is it? I mean, it starts with that. One of my favorite clients was actually, it was a local government, and it started with, the fire marshal says we have to clear all of these boxes of records out of the hallways in City Hall, that it's a fire hazard. Can you help? And after an initial conversation, it was clear to me, and I said to them that all these boxes in the hall are really a symptom of a deeper disease. Yes, we can get rid of the paper, but if we don't look deeper and understand why that information is there in these boxes, then it's only going to happen again. So finding out what's where, certainly, finding out beyond where geographically, which systems it's in, because information lives typically in a lot of different locations. Some of them are surprising, some of them are not, like email. Lots of places end up using email as information repositories, and that's not what they're designed for. Same thing with a system like Salesforce.com. I had another client who said, we don't have to worry about that department. They're using Salesforce, therefore there's no private information in Salesforce. And I went, oh, really? Things like information about the customer's address and phone number. And if the sales rep is doing their job, they have notes about the customer's children and their birthdays and all that stuff, because it's all about relationships. So understanding the different locations of the information technically is also important. So we have inventory information, we have inventory systems, if you will, but also we have to inventory the people. And what I mean by that is to get an understanding from the ground up about what the pain points are, because they may be different, or at least phrased differently than we think, even if we kind of understand. And having the people engaged from the get-go is critical. it's at least as important as getting your systems and information inventories right. Because nothing will stall or kill a records or information governance program faster than a bunch of people actually doing the work who are sitting there like this. Because they already have jobs to do. This is just something extra. You know, I understand the greater good, but I don't care. I'm just doing my job. They'll never say these things to you. Sometimes they'll say that to a consultant. But you have to take the temperature of the people as well and really understand. And Jesse, you may want to sit down for this because I know you've only heard it about 900 million times. You want to answer the question, what is the business problem you're trying to solve? It may be multiple. Very often it's variations on the single theme, which also then gives you an insight into where to start. Which groups, if they're separated by function, which offices, if you're separated by buildings. You know, in my government client's case, we started in City Hall, and what are these boxes? Oh, and then literally they had 3 other warehouses full, and they didn't know what was in them. So that's, I think, where it starts. And I liken it, I don't know if anybody's ever done or seen woodworking. I've done enough to know that I'm better off just seeing it. But there is the tool called the lathe, right? You spin wood basically to round it, and you take small layers of the wood off. You don't like dig deep and try to do it all at once. This process I liken to using a lathe because we want to peel back the layers a little bit at a time. And we want to check in up the organizational chain, but also down to the people doing the work all along the way, because you will find things you hadn't thought of. People themselves will say things that they hadn't thought of, because now we're trying to get them to think slightly differently, not necessarily do their jobs differently, but think about it differently. So you don't want to get too far out of the box and discover you have to make a change, because that's when it gets really hard and very time consuming and more expensive. So I told you it was my favorite subject. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to preach at you. Maybe I did.
No.
I'll
Great. It linked into a lot of what we have discussed over the past 2 weeks. So, thank you so much for that. Thank you. And like the saying is how do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And I think going through all of this has pretty much a new example with the layers as well. You know, that this isn't something you're gonna accomplish in 6 months.
Right.
So you do your initial assessments and then prioritize what has to come first. You know, so I think that's in a nutshell pretty much what we are hearing from you as well.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
I thank you guys for coming and joining us and sharing those nuggets that are really, I guess more of a boost or an incentive to, you know, realize that, hey, at times it can be overwhelming. You may feel discouraged, not want to do it, but at the end of the day, it's all worth it. And we just have to put our shoulders to the wheel and get moving, but also stay in contact with persons like yourself, you know, that who have experienced so much that you can help to guide us, you know, along the way and through the process, you know, because every organization has its unique features and qualities. So it's always good to speak with persons who have that experience and can help us to, you know, navigate that that path to really building up a strong records framework, records management framework. So thanks guys for getting out of your beds if you did not plan to this morning, joining us. We appreciate you, and whatever email or resources you have that can assist Mrs. Campbell and her team would be appreciated. I just want to make sure she has a contact. Okay, like I said, you were mentors for me in terms of my entry into the records management profession. So thank you again for giving back and sharing with us this morning.
Oh, you're entirely welcome. That's what we're here
My
for.
pleasure.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everybody. Have a
Okay,
great
bye.
rest of the
Take
day.
care. All
Have a
right.
good day. Thank you. Thank
Take
you.
care now.